Thank you all for coming and doing one of these things hybrid with Zoom and live people and everything. It's a little little different than the normal drill. So thank you for being patient while we worked with the members of the media, make sure everybody was online and ready to go. But we are ready to go now. So we just completed what I believe is the largest statewide anti-human trafficking operation in the history of the state of Ohio. Over 50 law enforcement agencies, as well as social service agencies that provide and connect services and help for survivors of human trafficking, have been working together, the federal government, state, local agencies, and very proud of the results of this. We have 177 arrests on the supply side, or excuse me, the supply side with Johns and traffickers, and 109 survivors were rescued as a result of this. I will let our law enforcement partners and some of the others come up here and briefly talk about some of the details. But at the beginning, I would like to note why this is different than prostitution and to talk about why this is so important. The difference between simple prostitution and human trafficking is the difference between 2 and 3. Prostitution is simply a John and usually a woman, the person who's selling sex, and that's prostitution. Human trafficking is involving a third person who is typically taking a cut of the money, and that's what elevates the simple prostitution into the evil of modern day slavery, human trafficking. The importance of this operation and the continuing work of all the agencies that are represented here today can hardly be overstated. And to illustrate, rather than with numbers and statistics and statutes and codes and strategies, I'd like to tell you, put a human face on this. I want to talk briefly about a woman that we came into contact with in this last week. She has a name. I'm not going to use it. We'll call her Elena. But Elena grew up with a mom who was a functioning drug addict. Now, when I say functioning, what I mean by that is she wasn't homeless. She wasn't unable to keep down a job, but she wasn't able to pay her bills because a drug addiction is an expensive thing. And so Elena's mom started turning to prostitution and became trafficked herself in order to get money to make the bills. Elena was a soft-hearted young woman, a daughter, wanted to help, felt helpless seeing what was going on with her mother and the difficulty that she was having financially. And so Elena started following in her mother's footsteps. And it wasn't long before a pimp had her addicted to drugs. When we picked her up, she told us that she was doing 1.5 grams a day of fentanyl and crack cocaine just so she didn't get sick. That wasn't to get high, that was to keep her from getting addiction sickness. She was pregnant and was continuing to use, even though she hated herself for continuing to feed her addiction while she was pregnant and sustaining another human being. That was actually her 4th time, because the first time she was pregnant as a result of being trafficked was when she was 16 years old. She has 3 children that she doesn't have custody of. During the course of her 5-year journey, she's been beaten over and over. She's been assaulted with a gun, raped multiple times. That's why this operation, this law enforcement operation, was called Operation Hope. That's why some of the people you're going to hear from today don't wear a badge, but they carry a helping hand and a toolkit to help the survivors of human trafficking to try to reclaim their life. And it's why the rest of us as society should care a lot about this. A threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, as Martin Luther King said. Or as a greater prophet and teacher once said, what you do to the least of these, you've done it to me. So I'd like to call up some of my partners, our partners that have done this good work. And first of all, Sheriff Baldwin.
Thank you, General. Appreciate it. I'm Sheriff Dallas Baldwin, Franklin County Sheriff's Office. At the onset of this investigation, our Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force, or we call it ICAC, played a very vital role in the investigation. They arrested 8 men who traveled to Central Ohio area for one purpose, and that was to have sex with a child. Now, what's a little surprising is of these 8 men, virtually nobody had any remorse. They were very blatant, they were defiant. And as an example, one of them actually winked at the camera as he was being arrested and let off. Well, in the Sheriff's Office, we have a very important message. Anybody who wants to come to Central Ohio and prey on our children, we're watching, we'll catch you, and we will put you in jail. The Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force is made up of about 12 different law enforcement agencies, and it's a great collaboration, and they have one message for everybody that we'll do everything we can to protect Ohio's most vulnerable population, and that's our children. Thank you.
Last week I was in the Mahoning Valley to observe part of the operation occurring there with a sting that was involving underage, putatively underage women and the men who wanted to buy them. We have with us by Zoom, I believe, Sheriff Jerry Green. Jerry, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me, General?
It's good to see you again.
You too. Well, first of all, last week, the Mahoning County Sheriff's Office, the Mahoning County Human Trafficking Task Force, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the agencies that were involved, the Austintown PD, Ohio ICAC, BCI, Ohio Investigative Unit, the State Highway Patrol, Cortland Police, Youngstown Police, Mahoning County Prosecutor's Office, the OOCIC, or the Ohio Organized Crime Investigation Commission, the APA, and especially the Attorney General's Office. I have to mention the Attorney General's Office because we talk a lot about collaboration here, especially with these operations. They're incredibly complicated. They take a ton of man hours, and without the Attorney General's full support, we would not be able to do these types of operations effectively and efficiently like we've been able to do. So last week, between Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in Mahoning County, we conducted an internet crimes sting, so to speak, that involved in many individuals searching for people that are on the different chat sites, the different websites, looking for underage boys and girls to prey upon. We ended up arresting a total of 14. The charges include attempted unlawful sexual conduct of a minor, possession of criminal tools, attempted rape, importuning, disseminating matter harmful to juveniles. We know that we have at least 2 of the phones of the individuals that we arrested that have child pornography on them. and there are a few additional charges that will be following. In Mahoning County, this is the 4th time we've done this sting, the 6th overall, because we've gone on the road to work with other agencies. But really our message is quite clear. If you're using the internet to try and exploit or take advantage of underage individuals, we want it to be in the back of your head that you may be talking to one of us, and hopefully you will be talking to one of us. We're not going away. We're going to continue to do these types of stings. We get a lot of satisfaction out of it, and that's the message that we want to give. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheriff. I also had the opportunity to observe the operation in Columbus, ably led by the Columbus Division of Police, and I'd like to welcome Deputy Chief Knight to the podium.
Good morning. I'm Deputy Chief Knight with the Columbus Division of Police. First, I would like to thank Attorney General Yost for recognizing the impact of human trafficking on our communities and for really being a true advocate for victims across the state. This is the 2nd year we've participated in this. Ohio law enforcement and their partners have come together to attack human trafficking in an effort to rescue victims and arrest perpetrators everywhere, from the streets of our neighborhoods to the dark corners of the internet. This year, Operation Hope, Autumn Hope, brought together almost 60 agencies, making this the largest operation to combat human trafficking, I believe, in the history of Ohio. The Columbus Division of Police PACT Unit, the Missing Persons Unit, and the Central Ohio Human Trafficking Task Force officers were a very large part of this statewide collaboration, and they were responsible for 80 arrests. Our street-level operations in Columbus focused on those neighborhoods where prostitution is visible. In those neighborhoods, those involved are caught in a cycle of addiction and abuse, and those that profit prey upon this vulnerable population. The Columbus Police PACT Unit was able to make 50 arrests over a period of 3 days, led by Sergeant Oboski. They recovered several guns, identified traffickers, connected human trafficking victims with services, and those services were designed to break the cycle of prostitution. The Central Ohio Human Trafficking Task Force worked to provide victims with resources, but even more importantly, they identified traffickers, and they're working to build cases that will take them off the street. We'd like to thank our partners that contributed resources. That includes the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, the Hope Task Force, the REACT team, the City Attorney's Office, the FBI, and Columbus Police patrol officers all over the city. We also want to thank our private and nonprofit partnerships who brought their expertise and resources directly into the field to meet these victims and connect them with services. The Salvation Army, Sanctuary Collective, Forensic Nurses of Ohio, Southeast Healthcare, and Out of Darkness. The value of this type of collaboration cannot be overstated. We have undoubtedly saved lives, but equally important, we are drawing attention to the impact human trafficking has on our cities, our neighborhoods, and our families. These partnerships will continue, and this collaborative effort will be a model for others as we continue to aggressively address human trafficking in this city and across the state. Thank you.
The U.S. Marshals had a huge week. Peter, Deputy Chief Bradley Stewart, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Floriano Whitwell. I'm the branch chief of the Sex Offender Investigations Branch and the Missing Child Unit for the United States Marshal Service. I want to start with my comments by a quote. "There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children." That very insightful statement was made by Nelson Mandela, and it rings true with us in the Marshal Service, as citizens, as parents, as law enforcement officers. And we are very committed to combating trafficking by way of rescuing missing children. Make no mistake, missing children is an epidemic. In 2019, I think there were around 430,000 reported missing cases throughout the year. Last year, it was 280,000. There's estimates that around 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 of endangered runaways, which makes up the largest portion of these missing child cases, are being trafficked. Those are astounding numbers that we must collectively combat. We must recover these children. In 2015, Congress established and passed the Justice for Victims of Trafficking Act, and that bestowed the authority upon the Marshal Service, the discretionary authority to assist our state and local partners with recovering missing children. Since 2015, the Marshal Service has been fairly successful in this mission. We have recovered almost 1,400 children since 2015. In 75% of the cases that we adopt, we make a recovery of a child. And in those recoveries, 73% of the time is within 7 days. But the only reason we have been effective is because of our partnerships with our other law enforcement partners within our communities here. For example, here in Southern Ohio, the Marshal Service Southern Ohio Fugitive Apprehension Strike Team is made up of 70 federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies representing 48 counties. It's only because of that partnership that we're able to be effective. Under the leadership of our director, Donald Washington, and United States Marshal Peter Tobin here in the Southern District of Ohio, we participated in Operation Autumn Hope, as well as with our district, the Southern District of West Virginia, who came over and assisted us. We were able to close 84 missing child cases, 84. This has been the most successful missing child recovery operation the Marshal Service has ever been engaged in or participated in. Of those 84 missing child cases, we made 45 physical recoveries. That's 45 children that are returned to a safer environment. Another 4 children returned because of the actions of our investigators, because of the interviews, because of the investigative activities. They went back to where they were supposed to be. Another 16 children that were reported missing in NCIC, we were able to locate and confirm that they were where they were supposed to be and no longer deemed missing. This is an incredible success. But again, it's only because of our partners, like the Attorney General here in Ohio, our partners with the Texas Department of Public Safety who helped us develop this mission, provided us with sorting out the data. Our partners at the Columbus Police Department, Cincinnati Police Department, and Dayton Police Department, and of course our partners at the Federal Bureau of Investigations who went and conducted all of these missions and operations with us. We could not have done this without all of these partners. And again, I want to thank everyone that participated. Thank you.
And now we have via Zoom, Special Agent in Charge, Vance Callender from Homeland Security. Agent, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Good morning, everyone. My name is Vance Callender. I'm the Special Agent in Charge for Homeland Security Investigations for Michigan and Ohio. I would like to thank and congratulate everyone on a successful operation, and especially thank Attorney General Yost for inviting HSI to participate here today. And I also would like to thank and recognize his Organized Crime Investigations Commission for creating and organizing such a successful operation for the people of Ohio. The results really speak for themselves and demonstrate the dedication of hardworking law enforcement across the state. This operation shows there continues to be a certain population of people out there looking to exploit the vulnerable in our society. Combating human trafficking absolutely requires a team effort to develop investigations, identify and prosecute traffickers, rescue victims, and to ensure that these victims receive proper services. HSI's partnership with the Attorney General Organized Crime Investigators Commission and the Cuyahoga Sheriff's Department in Northeastern Ohio, as well as collaboration with other law enforcement agencies, non-governmental organizations, has led not only increased awareness of the issue, but it has provided a mechanism to secure victims throughout the region and ensure that those responsible for their exploitations are brought to justice. HSI has made the fight against human trafficking a priority, not only here in Ohio, but across the nation and also around the world. HSI, with help from U.S. State Department, educates law enforcement in developing countries to help curb international trafficking victims before they reach our shores. Recently, HSI has taken the lead on creation of the Center for Countering Human Trafficking in Washington, D.C. This stands as a whole of government approach to combat human trafficking and involves federal agencies from across the spectrum. HSI is ready to continue our work with all of you to continue to fight to protect our most vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agent. One of the strongest partners, most significant partners the AG's office has in Ohio is the Cleveland Rape Crisis Center, and also by Zoom joining us should be Sandra Miller. Sandra, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, I'm Sandra Miller, and it is a privilege to serve as President and CEO of Cleveland Rape Crisis Center. Our mission is to support survivors of rape and sexual abuse, promote healing and prevention, and advocate for social change. My colleagues and I are honored to support thousands of rape, abuse, and trafficking survivors each year from Cuyahoga, Lake, Geauga, and Ashtabula counties. Since we were founded a little more than 45 years ago, even before there was a label of human trafficking or any laws that defined it, survivors of sex trafficking trusted us with their most personal stories. And these survivors, they shared stories that were full of fear and torment and anguish, but also stories of strength, hope, and resiliency. We remind survivors that what happened to them was never their fault, and they deserve to be believed and supported and have access to justice. About 5 years ago, Cleveland Rape Crisis Center launched a specialized 24-hour hotline for local survivors of human trafficking, as well as for the first responders and the professionals who are helping them. And each year our advocates answer about 200 calls on that line. Our expert therapists are here to provide trauma counseling. Our victim advocates are here to help survivors navigate the criminal justice proceedings. And our case management team stands ready at any time, day or night, to connect survivors with safe housing, transportation, addiction recovery treatment, sometimes even basic items such as food and clothing. At Cleveland Rape Crisis Center, we're dedicated to meeting the vast and distinct needs of survivors. In doing so, we've announced plans to expand our services next year by opening a drop-in center for survivors of human trafficking in the Glenville neighborhood of the city of Cleveland. We envision the center to be a safe, welcoming, nurturing place where those who have been harmed by trafficking can find respite. Of course, none of our work would be possible without strong partnerships with government and social service agencies. There are so many of our partners who are represented here today or were involved in Operation Autumn Hope. To Attorney General Yost, I recognize and appreciate that this operation is just one example of your longstanding commitment to ending human trafficking in Ohio. And to the other decision makers and the first responders who took actions to both reduce demand for trafficking and hold offenders accountable. I share my thanks with you. Because of your efforts, survivors have hope, access to justice, and an opportunity for healing. And it is very likely that you prevented many others from being harmed in unimaginable ways. Thank you. Human trafficking thrives in the shadows of our community, where survivors feel unseen and unheard. And the COVID pandemic has made those shadows bigger and darker, making far too many women, children, and men fall prey. We are honored to join our partners in this work, and we pledge to do everything we can to bring this horrible crime out of the shadows and into the spotlight, making our community healthier, safer, and stronger, and helping survivors to recover, heal, and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra, and thank you for your partnership. Human trafficking doesn't just happen in big cities. It's not a urban problem alone. It happens everywhere. It happens to all kinds of people of all socioeconomic statuses. And I know that it even happens in places like Dublin, Ohio. We're proud to have partnership with the Dublin Police Department, and Justin Paez is here, I believe, by Zoom to join us.
Yes, thank you, Attorney General. I appreciate the inclusion. I want to thank the Attorney General's Office and Ohio Organized Crime Investigations Commission for our inclusion in this operation, Autumn Hope. This is a focus of our organization and so many organizations across the state of Ohio, and it's important that it continues to be a focus to bring attention and awareness to this horrific problem of human trafficking. I want to thank the local, state, and federal partners who participated in this operation, Autumn Hope, and all of the efforts by all members included in this meeting today that will continue to go on to bring awareness, hope, protection, support, and justice to vulnerable members of our Ohio community. So thank you again for our inclusion in this operation and for the continued efforts, awareness, and education that is necessary to stop these horrific issues from occurring in our Ohio communities. Thank you.
Thank you for your help. Finally, before we take questions, we have Hannah Estabrook, who is recently of Catch Court here in Franklin County. Many of you know the story of Catch Court. Hannah has been one of the true pioneers in this field. She now is operating the Sanctuary Collective with a specific focus on assisting the survivors of human trafficking at the very entry, the very beginning of their journey toward freedom. So Hannah, thank you for being part of this operation, and I wonder if you could share a few thoughts with us.
Thank you, Attorney General Yost, for including me in this and also for your kind words. My name is Hannah Estabrook. I'm the Executive Director of Sanctuary Collective. It's a new nonprofit that is seeking to expand an existing drop-in center on Sullivan Avenue on the west side of Columbus into a full-time 24-hour space where women caught in the lifestyle of prostitution can come to get their basic needs met and build relationships with survivors who have already successfully exited the life and can point them in a new direction when it's desired. I've been working with survivors of trafficking for over a decade now in a therapeutic setting and a court setting. And if I've learned one thing about survivors of trafficking, it's that they do not fit a one-size-fits-all description. There are certainly themes and trends in the lives of many women in this situation, but they're also unique and special, and they have varying experiences of trauma, varying motivations for why they're in the life in the first place, and varying needs. It's easy to think of a typical scenario when interacting with a woman, to think you know her story and to cease being curious. And this is why, in my opinion, we have to slow down. We have to let our assumptions go, pay attention, ask good questions, and listen. Last week, I had the privilege of participating in this operation along with some amazing victim advocates from the Salvation Army and a treatment provider from Central Ohio's REACT team. I witnessed remarkable moments of slowing down, of curiosity, of really listening. I witnessed people in positions of power surrendering some of their assumptions and learning new things. And listen, Sanctuary Collective exists to give women a way out that does not necessarily involve law enforcement. However, our organization has been shaped and formed by the voices of survivors, many of whom claim that they needed to be arrested in order to find their way out. Wouldn't it be great if Ohio was a place where there were multiple paths that women and children could take to exit this lifestyle? From my perspective, this is needed partly because the research suggests that it can take several attempts to finally and fully exit the life. We need multiple strategies. Wouldn't it also be great if there was a space where women involved in this lifestyle could come and talk openly with a kind law enforcement officer about the things they're experiencing and where they could have some hope that they might know true and complete justice? We wholeheartedly support the work of trauma-informed law enforcement officers who take the time to ask good questions, stay curious, and treat women with dignity and respect, which is exactly what I witnessed last week. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of it.
Thank you, Hannah. And I apologize. Politicians never supposed to admit a mistake, but I erred. I was given this sheet and pulled it in half, and I neglected to recognize we have two others joining us. First is Maya Simek from Case Western Law. Thank you. I didn't mean to leave you off.
Good morning. My name is Maya Simek, and I'm the director of the Human Trafficking Law Project at Case Western University School of Law. The CWRU project has been in operation for 6 years, providing free direct legal services and appropriate social service referral and connections to both sex and labor trafficking survivors and those at high risk for trafficking, including members of the LGBTQ community and individuals with substance use disorders. CWRU's Human Trafficking Law Project is proud to be a partner of Operation Autumn Hope. This week, we sent out 10 of our faculty, law students, and master's level social work students into the field to participate in this endeavor. Students and faculty members met with survivors and offered free legal representation and social service referrals and follow-up. This experience allowed our students to witness firsthand a prime example of the interprofessional collaboration that is critical to anti-trafficking efforts. Participants gained insight into the incredible toll this heinous crime takes on survivors and observed the difference that can be made by providing survivors with access to legal and social services. We are grateful for the tremendous efforts of all of the community partners throughout this operation and for the opportunity to support survivors in such a unique capacity. Thank you very much.
And finally, we have Brian Smith from the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department. Brian, where did you go? There you are.
First off, thank you, Attorney General Yost, for your leadership and dedication related to human trafficking. We really appreciate it. Second of all, I want to thank the true boss, my assistant director, Sergeant James Mackey from the Sheriff's Department. He runs the day-to-day operations on our human trafficking, and he does an outstanding job. Sex trafficking has the potential to affect any community. Sex trafficking may appear to be a victimless crime, but it's not. It's a crime that hides and operates in plain sight. Those who profit off the sale of human beings are a catalyst of devastation toward individuals, families, and communities. Those who buy and rent a person are equally as culpable in the degradation of the individual and their community. Conducting proactive undercover operations is an effective tactic used to curtail the devastation. Sheriff Schilling of the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department is a proud partner of the Ohio Attorney General Yost and multiple law enforcement agencies in combating this crime statewide. In addition to our law enforcement partners, our social services and non-governmental partners are a vital link to connecting victims and those at risk of being victimized through services that address needs of victims on an individual level. Let this operation be a warning to those who sell human beings. You are not welcome in Ohio or in Cuyahoga County. For those who buy sexual services, the next door you knock on may be an officer waiting to place you in handcuffs. For those who are being trafficked, reach out for help by contacting 911 in emergency or the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888. Thank you very much.
So thank you for your patience, but as you can see, we have a very large team here, and we wanted to at least have a sampling of the people who were involved. So with that, if there are any questions, we'd be glad to try to take them.
Your first question is from Danny Eldridge with Hannah News.
Hello, Attorney General Yost. So can you talk a little bit about how the QAnon conspiracy theory affects the ability of law enforcement officials and other agencies to do their jobs to address the very real problem of child sex trafficking?
I'm sorry, which theory?
The QAnon conspiracy theory that believes there's like a Satan worshiping cabal of child traffickers out there, when Donald Trump's the only person who can save them.
Thank you, Danny. Look, first of all, I've never been asked about QAnon before, but as a public official, I welcome the opportunity to say that I don't buy it. It doesn't hold up under scrutiny. It's conflation of miscellaneous facts and wild imaginations. And the challenge, like Pizzagate, I'm assuming you're referring, Danny, to that and similar kinds of ideas, actually is a hindrance to being able to do this, because they're not even, I push back on the idea of theory, because there's an idea, and then that might become a hypothesis if it stands up under its internal logic. And then you have to apply it to facts in the real world, observable, replicable facts, before it gets to the point of a theory. So I don't have any sympathy for the idea that this is a theory. It doesn't get that far. What it is an unsupported imagination, and it gets in the way of the actually seeing what is true, actually understanding the world as it operates. So the perceptions of people that otherwise could be helpful can be warped by a false understanding of the world around us. But I don't think that I've ever sat in a planning session or listened to a briefing on an operation where any element of those kind of imaginations have played a role or interfered with law enforcement's operation. It's simply that the flow of information, the reporting of observations and facts can be skewed from the general public.
Thank you.
The next question is from John Bedell with WHIO.
Hi, Attorney General Yost. Thanks for taking some time for us today. I think when you talk about the scourge of human trafficking, I think there tends to be a sense for my purposes, the average person maybe in the Miami Valley, in the Dayton area, or across Ohio, to think well, that doesn't happen here in the Buckeye State. Is it a more prevalent problem across Ohio than maybe the average Ohioan realizes?
Yeah, it absolutely is a bigger problem people think about. Part of it, you hear folks in economic development, boosters of Ohio, talk about how we're the crossroads of America, and we really are. There's a huge amount of transportation infrastructure that goes through Ohio. But we have a lot of homegrown human trafficking too. And the fact is, it operates in the shadows. It operates in ways that aren't terribly visible if you don't know what you're looking for. So yeah, I think it's a much bigger problem than we expect. And here's a piece of circumstantial evidence that I would point to. We've been doing these human trafficking stings for a while now, and yet we don't have any diminution in demand. The one night that I was out at the Columbus operation, they had 82 calls come in. Now, some of those folks got spooked for this reason or that, but the idea that even in an era where human trafficking enforcement is on the upswing and people know that others have been arrested for it, we still have demand. This doesn't feel like if you have a numbers racket and you take down the bookies, you know, the whole numbers thing starts to go away for a little while. This feels more like drugs, where you know no matter how much enforcement you do, there's always more flowing in behind it. So yeah, I think it's a much bigger problem than people think it is.
The next question is from Gil McClanahan with WCHS.
Good morning, Mr. Yost. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Oh, and by the way, she did not butcher my name, so thank you very much. She apologized to me beforehand. But anyway, sir, I wanted to. Yes, absolutely. I've had my name butchered dozens of times. But anyway, my question is, on Friday, your office announced the arrest of Portsmouth attorney Michael Mirren on charges related to human trafficking. First of all, was that one of the 177 arrests that you made last week? And what can you tell us about this case, the circumstances surrounding his arrest, if you can discuss that?
Thank you. For those of you who don't know, Michael Mirren is an attorney, former city council member in Portsmouth, Ohio. He was arrested Friday on a grand jury indictment at the end of a years-long investigation by one of the Organized Crime Commission task forces, and is charged with a racketeering and a number of human trafficking related offenses. In fact, I was checking my phone. He's going to be arraigned this morning, and I'm waiting to hear what the judge said as a bond for this man. But he was a criminal defense lawyer and used his position in the system, his specialized knowledge, his access to people who had been, women who had been trafficked, who had been arrested for solicitation, and set up his own little business trafficking women. And it's been a long time coming. I'm glad to see that finally coming to fruition. But however, that's not part of Operation Autumn Hope. That's been a separate parallel investigation that's been going on for a couple of years. And we were finally to a place where we were ready to go to grand jury and were able to schedule the time. So the timing of the indictment is completely coincidental.
Okay, thank you.
The next question is from Josh Madore with the Youngstown Business Journal.
Good morning, Attorney General Yost. My question relates to this idea of human trafficking as this large international network that I think a lot of people have in their minds. Were these cases connected in any way? And how many of these cases involve the movement of people from, you know, the town they're living in to other states or other parts of Ohio?
So I don't have numbers specifically on that. The majority, I would say, of these cases are state of Ohio cases. A number of the women had been in different towns in Ohio at different points in their lives. But while there is, and no question, an international problem with trafficking in persons, it happens right here in Ohio. It's homegrown right here in Ohio. And it doesn't make any difference whether your slave master comes from Bucyrus or comes from Russia. The human bondage is the same thing. The evil is the same, and the damage is the same.
Your next question is from Anjanette Levy with Law and Crime Network.
Hi, Attorney General Yost. Thanks so much for doing this today. Talk to us, if you would, a little bit. How would you describe what Michael Moran has been up to for so many years? We've always heard rumors that it's been going on for decades. And how would you describe this type of behavior?
Well, a great deal of human trafficking occurs through uses of vulnerabilities, a drug addiction, or using physical violence. The Mirren case is different because he had a special position of trust, special knowledge of how the system worked, special knowledge of how law enforcement investigations work. And so he was able to use that and his position of power within the system. These survivors that were so brave to come forward of, and we got 6 of them that all tell the same story. You know, one of the things that in the past has often happened, the defense lawyer's favorite trick in one of these cases is to tear apart the credibility of the survivor who's trying to tell her story. And usually it's pretty easy to do. She's usually got a rap sheet. She may have a drug or alcohol problem, probably has some things in her past that helped lead to her vulnerability and her trauma that was exploited by the trafficker. And so you tear apart her credibility, you argue reasonable doubt to the jury, and the bad guy gets off. In the era of Me Too, prosecutions have changed because the people that do this over and over again leave behind them a tale that is told over and over again by women who do not know each other. And when they all tell the same story with same salient points, then you can't rip apart their credibility as easy. Because even though they may have issues in their past, their courage, the pain that it causes them to come forward and testify, gives them a special credibility with the fact finder. And I think that's what we will see in Michael Mirren's case. Now, I mean, I'm a constitutionalist. Let me hasten to say the indictment is just an allegation. It's an accusation by the state. He's considered innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But our office stands ready with our partners that investigated this to offer that proof in a court of law.
The next and last question will be from Bob Strictly with the Cincinnati Enquirer.
Good morning. Not to hijack this for the Michael Moran case, but I'm just curious if you have any insight about why the sealed document that indicated that this was a pattern was not further investigated by federal authorities, even though the DEA had a well-documented pattern of behavior from Mr. Moran, and what prompted the AG's office and local authorities to start looking into this now?
So you were breaking up a little bit, but I think I got the gist of the question. And um, it's inappropriate for me to try this case in the media or to elaborate on the history or the conduct of the investigation or the evidence. So I will respectfully decline to answer that question, but look forward to proving up our case in a court of law. Thank you all for being here, and especially thank you to our partners in law enforcement and in the helping services for this great success. I'm so proud of Operation Autumn Hope. Thank you.